For decades, Europe blindly relied on the military protection of the United States. But now, something unexpected is happening. France, Germany, and other nations are secretly putting together a plan to break ties with the US. And it could mark the biggest military split since the Cold War. Why now? What's driving this move? And is Europe really about to stab the Americans in the back? Stick around till the end. You'll see why this plan could change everything. The silent rift. In recent years, and especially with the war in Ukraine, European leaders have come to a harsh realization. Without the United States, Europe is militarily vulnerable. Their dependence on Washington became painfully clear as ammunition stockpiles ran low, and European industries struggled to replenish weapons anywhere near the pace of the Americans. But what really raised eyebrows was the political chaos in the US. The possibility of another isolationist president, like Trump, set off alarm bells in capitals like Paris, Berlin, and Brussels. If the US suddenly decides to leave Europe to fend for itself, then what? Who's going to defend the continent? And that's where this silent conflict begins. There are no public insults, no direct clashes, but the growing distance is undeniable. Behind closed doors, European leaders are quietly discussing independent defense strategies, and suddenly the phrase strategic autonomy is popping up at nearly every EU summit. The truth? For the first time in decades, Europe is getting ready for a world where the US is no longer its shield. No one's saying it out loud, but the tension is there, creating cracks within NATO and redrawing the global map of military alliances. The cost of dependence. For decades, Europe lived under an invisible shield, built, funded, and maintained by the United States. This allowed European countries to spend far less on defense and redirect resources toward healthcare, education, and social welfare. It seemed like a smart choice until now. The war in Ukraine exposed a brutal truth. Most European armies aren't ready for a prolonged conflict. They're short on ammunition, modern equipment, even trained personnel. And who's been picking up the slack? Once again, the Americans. Without US support, Europe's ability to respond would be close to zero. And that realization hit hard. But there's another layer to this, the geopolitical cost. Europe has never truly had the freedom to make its own military decisions. Whenever a conflict breaks out, it's Washington calling the shots. And that seriously bothers countries like France and Germany, who are eager to regain influence and independence on the world stage. That's why strategic liberation is becoming more than just a buzzword. It's not just about building their own weapons, it's about reclaiming control over their own decisions. This isn't just about military power anymore, it's about political sovereignty. And Europe seems ready to pay the price before it's too late. Europe's new game plan. What once sounded like political talk is now turning into real action. France, Germany, and Spain have joined forces to build the FCAS, a futuristic air combat system designed to replace American fighter jets across Europe. And we're not talking minor upgrades. This is sixth-generation tech, AI-driven systems, combat drones, and real-time battlefield communication. But that's just the beginning. Europe is also developing the Eurodrone, an ambitious project to end its reliance on US drones for surveillance and recon missions. The message couldn't be clearer. We want our own eyes in the sky. Meanwhile, new ammunition factories are popping up in Germany and Eastern Europe, all part of a push to become self-sufficient in times of war. The European Commission has just approved record-breaking defense investments, something unthinkable just a decade ago. For the first time, Europe's military budget isn't just a collection of national efforts. It's a unified, coordinated plan with clear strategic goals. The EU is slowly transforming into a real military force, something that, until recently, existed only on paper. But here's the real shocker. The US hasn't been invited to any of these projects. For the first time, Europe is building weapons, systems, and strategies entirely without American involvement. And that raises an uncomfortable question. Is the transatlantic alliance coming to an end? Behind the breakup, while European leaders still talk publicly about partnerships and transatlantic cooperation, behind the scenes, tensions are heating up. Washington is eyeing Europe's exclusive military projects with growing suspicion. And it's not just about pride. We're talking billions of dollars that Europe might stop spending on American-made weapons. For the US defense industry, this European emancipation is a direct threat to their bottom line. But it goes deeper than money. By building an independent defense system, Europe is gaining something the US has always controlled: the Suusi, power to make strategic decisions. Picture a global crisis where Europe acts alone, without asking Washington for permission. That changes everything. And to many inside the Pentagon, that's as big a threat as any foreign enemy. On the surface, US-Europe relations remain polite. But behind closed doors, it's all business. Cold, calculated, and increasingly distant. There's a power shift unfolding in the background, and no one wants to be the first to admit the marriage is falling apart. But the signs are there. Europe has started writing its own war manual, and the US is losing its monopoly on protection. The risk of failure. Despite all the optimistic talk, the truth is, Europe faces massive hurdles on the road to real military autonomy. EU member states don't always see eye to eye. While France and Germany are eager to lead, other nations are skeptical and would rather stick with the US alliance. The lack of a single leader and a unified defense vision could jeopardize the entire plan. And let's be honest, building a true European army takes enormous investments, cutting-edge tech, and years of preparation. Even with projects already underway, Europe still isn't capable of sustaining a long-term war on its own the way the US can. So if American support suddenly vanished, would the continent really be ready to stand alone? But here's the most dangerous part. If Europe bets on military independence and fails, it could end up stuck in a strategic void, too weak to defend itself and no longer enjoying the same level of US support. That's the risk of tampering with historic alliances. When trust breaks, it's not always easy to rebuild. Europe's plan is already in motion, quiet but unstoppable. For the first time since World War II, Europe is ready to cut the military cord that ties it to the United States. To some, it's a bold step towards strategic freedom. To others, it's a silent betrayal, one that could come at a high price. But one thing is clear: the old world order is crumbling, and the global map of alliances may be about to change forever. Right now, it's no longer a question of if Europe will move away from US weapons. It's a matter of when. And when it does, the entire world will feel the impact, in wars, in alliances, and in the decisions that shape the fate of nations. Are you ready for this new reality?